Hi, today I'm going to talk about point number 4 in our guide to communicating during COVID-19 or any other crisis. Just to remind us all, we had 3 points before that. Number 1 is create a communications team. Number 2 is to identify all the audiences you need to think about in order to communicate well. Number 3 is to really understand what is it that each audience needs to know to feel hopeful and reassured during this time. Point number 4 gets a bit into the specifics of marketing, and the question goes back to the same. What do you market right now? Well, what is relevant to your client right now? Or what any of the audiences? Could be your patient. If you're closed, don't ask them to come to your office. Of course, that may seem obvious, but a lot of people are wondering, well, what do I do? How do I say this? So just think about your audience and tell them what it is they need to do. If they're impacted by this, that's when empathy really has to come in. People don't want to be sold right now. They're open and they're willing to try and to do different things, which we've seen a lot of. They really don't want to be sold very hard right now. It's just not a good time for that. If you're running advertising, make sure the information is correct, that the message is relevant for the time. In some cases, big retailers, big CPG firms, they didn't have time to change, for example, and they were running their basketball advertising. And of course, there was no basketball. Some of those things can't be avoided. Sometimes you are running things well in advance and you really can't do anything about it. Well, that's okay. People will give you grace for that. But if you're running some big special on something that you know people couldn't get to or seem really out of bounds right now, keep that in mind. And don't cut. We hear a lot. We've done a ton of research. I was at P&G during the 2008, and the guidance then is the same as it is now. Don't just start cutting everything. We are going to rebound from this. Now is not the time to shut the doors completely. We'll talk in our next guide about how to build momentum during this time. But it is a really good time to think about all of your things you are running. What marketing are you running? Is there any way you could do an ROI analysis on those sales activation? What do you think about your brand building? Is the message right? So think about those sorts of things. Don't necessarily just go and cut. That's not the answer. This is not a long-term thing. So I hope that helps. Point number 4. Thanks a lot.